So you will be here with me tonight, 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 tonight. I need to have a very good connection with you. Psychically, psychically, psychically. Let it be, let it be. Believe me, I do know what I'm talking about. And I am crazy too.
Welcome everybody to, I guess we'll call, what do I call this? The PMS podcast. With me, hold on one second, is my guest, Mr. Naz Redna. That was his music we just heard. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Thanks for playing my video.
No problem. Everyone, his all his info is in the description. Go check out. He does great stuff. He does Dabbleverse stuff, a ton of non-Dabbleverse stuff, makes his own music, dabbles in a little bit of everything, I guess you could say.
Yes, definitely.
So,
everyone's welcome. You'll find something.
You'll find something in there. He's got inspirational stuff, all sorts of stuff.
Interviews.
Great interviews, including me.
Yep.
I put that in there. We did a West Memphis 3 video together. This time we're going to switch a little bit. I enjoyed very much doing that video with him because he is from the area down there. I am from the New England, Boston area, so I have a little more insight into the marathon bombings and say the average person that lives elsewhere. So we're kind of going to go down. We're probably going to watch a couple clips. When I was going to do this by myself, I had it set up because it was a 5-day affair. The bombings were on the 15th, and then on the 19th is when they finally caught the last suspect. April 15th, April 19th. So I had a video series where it was covered each day. That's going to be a little too much to watch. We're having a conversation here, so I figured maybe we'll do the first one and the final, just so everyone remembers what happened. And the final one or two, the second to last one is also good because that's when the first brother gets killed with this crazy shootout, bomb out situation in Watertown, Massachusetts. But in between that, we want to talk about what happened. I'm interested to know. Hear from Naz to know what it was like not living in the area, because when you live in the area, you get all this info, and I don't know if everyone's getting the same, all the info we're getting, because we got local news, we got, we're from the area and everything. So, Naz, real quick before we get going, how do you remember where you were when it happened? Like, I'm sure you remember where you were on 9/11. Do you remember where you were this one or no?
Yeah. I really don't on this one, which is crazy. I remember there's certain things I'm going to tell you I remember. I don't know. I think, what time did it happen?
It happened in the afternoon. I want to say 2:30ish, between 2 and 3 in the afternoon, I believe. Best of my recollection.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. Yeah, it's very not the best answer to say I don't remember, but
no,
if you don't, it might come to me when we're watching this.
This is my most loyal viewer, never misses an episode. Thank you, Mr. Redna Online. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's funny because they were from the Russia area. I think everyone's thinking they're Middle Eastern, but they were they were Muslims, heavily into Islamic terrorist shit, but they were from a very Muslim, was it Chechnya? I can't remember. Yeah, Chechnya, that would make sense. Yeah. Yeah, originally.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
People tend to just think Middle East
yeah, right,
when it
right.
comes
Yeah.
to Islam, but I mean, there's a lot of terrorism in Russia that you could find on YouTube. You know, where they've done similar things in Russia. So there's a lot going on over there too with it.
Yeah, I believe they were. I believe I saw they were anti-Russian government, whatever, too, whatever. So they were. And when we'll get into it more, but it seemed that I feel almost, not that I say I feel bad because you're still going to be fucked up to do this, but I believe the younger brother had it a lot easier than the older brother. The younger brother was very sociable. He seemed to take to America, where the older brother was kind of like an outcast. And from everything I've read and seen, he's the one that kind of got his brother, into all this
Yeah,
crazy shit.
yeah. It reminds me of the DC sniper murders. Remember
Oh
that?
yes, I remember those. Yeah, yeah,
And it's the same thing, an older guy who's very
yeah.
indoctrinated into it, and with a young protege who's just more admiring, his brother
Right.
or
Yeah.
his dad or his mentor. So it's very similar like that. Yeah. The younger guy, yeah, he was definitely. It was kind of strange. He was tweeting about it too, which is something we'll see.
Right. Yeah.
Wild.
So even to this day, I butcher their names, so I will be calling them
Yeah.
younger brother, older brother, white hat, black hat.
Yeah, white hat,
Yeah.
black hat. That's
Yeah.
what the feds were
Yeah.
saying. And you know
Yeah.
what? We don't need to mention their names.
That's true. Yeah. No publicity needed. So white hat was the younger brother, black hat was the older brother.
Yep.
So for me, it's funny, like not funny, but on so I used to landscape full time when I was younger. I still do it part time. But when 9/11 happened, I was landscaping full time. No, it's 2001. The iPod isn't really around yet.
Mm-hmm.
So to listen to music while I landscape, I got a old fashioned Walkman, because I mean Discmen were around, but you can't, the disc would skip like crazy if you're trying to work. So I would
Mm-hmm.
make these mixtapes and listen to them while I worked. And that particular day, I decided to listen to the radio, and I listened to, ironically, local station 107.3 WAAF, who Opie and Anthony worked for previously before getting big. But yeah, they're talking about what's going on and with 9/11. So I'm like, holy shit. So the rest of the day, while I'm working, I'm just listening to it. Well, fast forward to the Boston bombings there. I no longer landscape full time, but I do part time. So every spring and fall, I would take a week's vacation from my regular job to do spring cleanups and fall cleanups. I happened to take the day off from my regular job to landscape that day. I'm listening to my iPod, and there's a guy we worked with at the time, who was an older guy, and he's struggling. So he's like, he takes the truck to go get something to eat and drink, and he comes back and he's listening to the radio. He's like, hey, there was a bombing at the marathon. And he was kind of this old crackpot. So like, yeah. So then I had a radio on my iPod, and I find it. I'm like, holy shit. So both times I was landscaping. Both times, normally I would just be listening to music. I would never hear. But one time I listened to the radio, and the other time another guy listened to the radio. So that's how I found out about it.
It's funny you say that, because in 9/11, I was listening to Stern, because we had him syndicated here in Memphis, and clock radio, graphic design, like I always have done. And yeah, I heard it. So I was listening to Stern, and yeah, I mean, you can replay it. They replay it every year. That's exactly my experience.
Right.
And then all of us crammed into the owner's office where he had a TV.
Yeah.
And we were just watching it from that point on. But yeah, Stern. I think the reason I don't remember this one is because, like 2012, was that the year of this?
2013. Yeah.
2013.
Yeah.
Like streaming was there, but it wasn't like it. Like today, it's YouTube all day long. But back then, it was like Spotify is something I was really, at that time, I just listened to Spotify. I wasn't on YouTube, and I think when I got home is when I saw it on the news. Is what it wasn't one of those things where I saw it happen live.
Yeah.
Now the everything after that, I followed it, the searching and all that stuff. which has, you know, it's interesting. The time period, it's just 10 years, 15 years makes a difference. Even solving a crime, which we'll get into, you know, I mean, because now there are cameras everywhere. Back then, you know, they had them, but it was tough, and we'll see that.
Yeah.
But technology, streaming, it's like now if something like this would happen, immediately we'd see it on Twitter.
Yeah, you can't get away with anything like this anymore. Like, you know, it took, you know, 5 days to catch these guys. It would probably take it would take less than a day to figure out who they were. Like these days, I swear they may not release who they are, but they would figure it out. Yeah,
they could have zoomed in on the white cap, black cap, and literally followed them. They even talk about the fact that their face recognition software wasn't all that great back then, where now it probably, you know,
junior high, making me feel old. I mean, I was in my early 20s. Our oldest child, I remember, it was his kindergarten. Oh no, I'm thinking of 9/11. Never mind. That was I'm getting them mixed up.
Well, I'll show my age. Not to, I mean, we can go on tangents, but I did stay home when the Challenger blew up, which was
I remember
86 or 87. I can't remember. 86 might have been. But I stayed home that day, which was rare. I always went to school, but I watched it with my dad at home. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I remember watching it in class. You know, I was young. I was in school too.
In class.
Yeah, because they had the teacher going, so they were showing everybody. Yes, Mr. in Asylum. The manhunt is like almost crazier or more interesting than the bombing itself and everything leading up to it. Just to paint a picture, so it took place on obviously Marathon Day in Boston, which is Patriots Day in Massachusetts. Massachusetts only state holiday. It's something I didn't really appreciate growing up here, but a lot of the Revolutionary War sites and history and all that took place up here. So we would visit all those places on field trips and everything. And so we have a holiday in April called Patriots Day, kind of like, I don't know, celebrating, you know, the Revolutionary War and everything. And it's the marathon. And also another tradition, the Boston Red Sox always have a home game that day, and they start at like 11 a.m. instead of like in the afternoon or at night to like coincide with the traffic with the race. So it's a big deal in Boston. A lot of people have the day off. They'll go watch the race, you know, because it's called the Boston Marathon, but it's not all, you know, it starts in a town called Hopkinton, Massachusetts, which is actually a very nice suburb. It's nothing like the city. So if you live anywhere along the route, you know, you can go watch it and everything. Yeah, it's always been like a little, like, you know, people go, the bars open early. Everyone loves it. So for that to happen was crazy. And as awful as it is, we're almost lucky in a way that so few people died because they put the bombs on the ground instead of higher up. So the shrapnel hit everybody in the legs. And yeah, I forget, like 17 or 20 people lost their parts of their legs, had amputees, you know, hundreds were hurt. But yeah, it could have been a lot worse, unfortunately.
It's amazing. Unfortunately. It's amazing that the way they built them.
Yeah,
it was pretty interesting, sophisticated in a way. The fact that it worked. I mean, this stuff doesn't always work, but they missed us. Thank God they missed a detail like that.
Right. Yeah.
You know, they got everything. They could build these things, but they didn't think about placement, which is great. Thank God.
Thank God, because
it would have been worse.
And I don't want to. This sounds awful, but they even were smart enough to do it like a day when everybody's going to be out. And everyone's looking at the road. Nobody's looking at them, you know, so no one, you know, on a normal day, you might see someone put a backpack down and walk away. Nobody saw two guys, you know, in real time, put these backpacks down and then just leave.
Yeah. I know.
And I still can't believe like the guts, because they were pressure cooker. God, this is the part I didn't even look up. I know I don't think they activated. They were just kind of like on a time. Shit, I don't remember how they.
Yeah, I don't either. But they must have had something because White Hat, the younger one, walked out of the frame right after it blew up. So
yeah,
and they were timed like 30 seconds apart, so they had the timing
right. They had to something going. Yeah, and I can't imagine how scary that was, because like especially when the second one goes off, you have no idea how many of these things are. I actually work with a lady who was there with her handicapped daughter in a wheelchair, She has like an amazing story. You know, I didn't want to use her info without permission. I didn't even think to ask her,
but you
but
could
yeah.
tell a story, kind
But
of.
yeah, just yeah, but yeah, we had a thing at work. They kind of got rid of it, but it was like a mental wellness thing, and they would have these panels where they every year 3 or 4 people would tell these stories. And I actually did it one year with substance abuse. I was talking about my past substance abuse, and she was speaking about like, yeah, she's near the finish line, but thankfully not close enough to where the bomb was, and she's got to try and get out of there with a daughter in a wheelchair, and it was like so, and just the devastation that the carnage that she saw, um I'll never forget that picture of I forget the guy's first name. His last name was Bowman, or Bowman.
I know what you're about to talk about.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have. Yeah, yeah.
where
The,
he's
the
the
leg
cowboy
guy.
hat, like, yeah, he's literally pinching his like artery or whatever,
Yeah.
or main vein in his leg that's now outside his leg to keep him from bleeding to death. And
Yeah, I want to talk about him a little bit, but we don't have to do it right now.
no. So should we? I'm thinking.
We could. It's up to you. I mean,
Yeah,
we're pretty organic.
Yeah,
I remember him the most, the image, because I thought about it. At that time in my life, I was in a job change and things were really stressful. But I remember being at a doctor's office and a People magazine, I believe it was, and it was maybe a month later, and they had graphic photos in there, and that's when it really sunk in. You know, like I try to shield myself away from things. You know, back then at least. Now with Twitter, you can't. You see everything. Right. You've seen everything. But back then I would try not, I didn't like to see things like that. So but long story short, I'm looking through this magazine and I saw it, and I saw him, and he looked to be around my age, and I mean, the picture did not edit anything. You saw exactly what you were describing. And I was thinking, like, man, how strong this dude has got balls of fucking steel, man. I mean, he had his wits about him. He went through this, which is just beyond belief how traumatic that could be. The 1 second you're there, next second your legs are blown off, And he's thinking, and he looks like his face is like he's just surviving, but
it's like white as a ghost, if I recall. Yeah, he's just.
Yeah, I mean, that pisses me off more than that, and the 8-year-old boy, which
that's
White Cap 2 or White Cap, younger one, put beneath his feet. Those are what and it's not to take away from anyone, because I've seen the X-rays and there was a lot of limbs gone, and I want to say screw these guys, man. I don't know what the younger one's still alive for, but that's another stuff. That's enough. I mean, this is fucking brutal, man.
Yeah, I was.
It pissed me off.
Just I watched a few videos. Just I wanted to, kind of like we did with the West Memphis 3. I just wanted the things, because there were actually things in the video I remember so much, but there were things I forgot.
Yeah.
So they were talking about like second possible bombings that weren't even linked. I don't even remember that shit at all. Like finding pipe bombs somewhere else or whatever. But there's one point they show the picture, the still frame, or it might even been a picture somebody took. You see White Hat walking away. You see the backpack down. You see the 8-year-old boy with his family, and they're showing it to the head FBI agent, and they're like, "What do you see in this picture?" And the dude just like, it takes him like 30 seconds to say anything, and it wasn't like that bullshit. Like you could tell he was trying to keep it together, because like, I mean, they saw what happened to that 8-year-old boy, and even everyone that died, the 4 people that died there was 3 people in their 20s, and an 8-year-old boy. It was all, 3 people at the marathon, and then Officer Collier died. And there's actually a 5th guy, which I'll look up his name later. I always forget. He died almost a year later, like April 10th the next year. And it was all related to injuries he suffered during the Watertown shootout. So people around here sometimes consider him the 5th, because he died relating to that. But he doesn't get enough either. Not credit.
You're right.
If anyone's ever seen the Mark Wahlberg movie Patriots Day, where they cover it, they obviously fictionalize some of it. But that I'll jump back, but that Watertown scene when they're fighting the two brothers, that was slightly exaggerated, but not much. Like pretty much everything you saw there, like they were throwing bombs at the cops, they were shooting. Literally, an officer tackled Black Hat when he went to reload. Like that. I mean, like I'm usually not a cop guy, but man, I mean that's something I'll never forget either, which I'll get to at the end. But
yeah,
I'll wait to the end. But yeah,
I'll say that.
Yeah.
We don't want to jump around too much.
Right, much. I'm all over the place all of a sudden. All right.
No,
so
that's all right. But
the
kid. Let's go back to the kid thing real quick because this is something that we talked about with the West Memphis 3. You know, with children victims, and there's just something darker and more sinister because as adults we know the risks. Yes. And I just there's just we're both fathers too, so that has a lot to do with it. But man, I just hate when kids are victims, man. It just tears me up.
Like I don't like, as I said earlier, part of me was trying to give White Hat slightest bit of sympathy because I really feel that his brother didn't do what he did to him. I don't think he would have done this. But in the end, he still did it. He saw families, he saw kids, he saw mothers, and he put the backpack down and he walked away. And it has been documented.
And then went and bought milk.
He went and bought milk, bought the wrong milk, returned it, like that whole deal, which I still remember when that came out. Yeah, it's like nothing was going on. And I'm always shocked that like nobody called them in after their without jumping around too much.
Yeah.
When they figured out, all right, like you know what, we'll go in order. So we got the bombing.
Yeah, let's go in order.
Yeah, we got the bombing. I'm sure most people know by now, but there was an explosion near the finish line of the Boston Marathon, and then 30 seconds later, roughly, there was another bombing. I think a couple hundred yards away. 3 people died at the bombing. Tons were injured, lost limbs. There's just, there's footage if anyone wants to see it. I don't know why you would, but
they made homemade bombs with pressure cookers. They packed it with like shrapnel.
Yeah.
BBs, other things, like that's sinister shit right there, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It was there was one brother in his mid-20s, who, like I said, they were immigrants originally. He was a boxer, pretty good. I believe he wanted to go for the U.S. Olympic team, but was mad he wasn't able to because he wasn't a citizen.
He was pretty good. He was better than Aaron Imholt.
Oh man. Then White Hat, the younger brother, was 19. He was going to UMass. He was going to college. Everyone that knew him claimed they were like shocked. I think people were less shocked about his brother than they were him.
Yeah.
I remember an interview with 2 of his classmates who were Muslims, and they would try and get him to go to this group, this college, Muslim group, and he showed no interest. They're like, I didn't even know he was into religion. So whatever was going on behind the scenes, he kept quiet. Like his friends didn't know anything about it. But yeah, they were watching ISIS videos and all that stuff. So they were being indoctrinated, and the older brother was definitely influencing the younger brother. They built these, as you said, these bombs, these pressure cooker bombs. They had more. They planned on going to New York after Boston. We'll get into later, but thankfully they were caught before they were able to. And yeah, so they set up these bombs on the marathon. It's just chaos, people going to hospitals, losing limbs, and then they got to try and figure out who did this. So I have seen, what's funny, even to this day, I have seen multiple, I'm guessing it was all fused together, but I have seen multiple ways they figured out who it was. Bowman there, supposedly when he came out, the one we talked about with the artery being clamped, when he finally came out of consciousness, he said something about seeing Black Hat, saying, I saw the guy, blah, blah, blah. I know they were also looking through pictures and video, and I've seen something where someone saw a still frame and they saw White Hat, like everyone's looking towards the explosion and White Hat's not. He's looking the other way like he was expecting.
He's walking away.
Yeah. And then I also saw where there was an FBI agent who saw the same thing. Like they were just going through all this footage, just trying to find something off. And basically one of the agents was said he was looking for just someone that looked different, that was acting different than everybody else. And he pretty much saw the video of that still frame. So I think it all kind of came together that way. But the days leading up to that, there was all misinformation, just like there was in 9/11. There was, I remember one of the news outlets reported there was an arrest when there wasn't. I remember one of the papers, might have been like the New York Times or the Post, they put a picture of a man with a white hat and a backpack on the cover, but it was a different white hat. It wasn't the one they were even looking at. So the media was like just wanting to be first. We're trying to get this out, figure out who it was. They finally, as I said, they figured out it was white hat and black hat in the ways I named, through the still frames, through the videos. And to this day, it seems somebody leaked it to, I believe it was the local Fox 25 in Boston affiliate, because there was kind of in between the different, the FBI was working on it, and the local police and everything. Some people wanted to release the pictures, figure we get these pictures out, people will tell us who they are, we can go get them. Other people were thinking, well, the one advantage we have is they don't know we're looking for them. So once they see their pictures, they might take off. And I see both. To this day, I don't know what the right answer was, to whether to release the pictures or not.
But it's interesting, like where you said the word leak. I mean, that's now that wouldn't happen because everyone's a leaker now. Right. Has cameras. I mean, back then, like I think I just got a smartphone now, not to derail us, but 2010, 11, 12, that's when smartphones the people were converting to smartphones. So it's still, I was the last holdout, but it still wasn't like it is today, man. Like, look at the footage. If you see probably Boston Marathon today in that same spot, everyone's going to be holding up their phones like at a concert. Back then, nobody has their phones out. You see that in the footage, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. And so, shoot, where was I?
The leak.
Okay, the leak. So, and what's ironic is this one is, I'm torn on things that I usually wouldn't be torn on. I'm usually all about the media finding out, all right, what our government's doing and all this stuff. This one, I don't know. They were gonna go. Fox 25 was gonna go public with it. They asked them not to, so they came some kind of compromise. Just give us a little time so we can put out, and we'll give you a 1 hour. I think they gave them like a 1 hour exclusive. So they put out the pictures of the brothers. Thought they were going to get 1 million phone calls, and nobody called to say they knew these, which was to me still crazy to this day. That they didn't get calls and nobody recognized these guys. But then they assumed, okay, we're identified, so they want to go to New York to set off these and get out of town to go set off these new bombs. So I believe they had one gun. They wanted to get a second gun. So they came up with this brilliant idea of stealing it from an MIT police officer. MIT, the college up. We got some good colleges up here in Cambridge, Mass area. MIT, Harvard. They ended up not even getting the gun from the officer, but they killed him in the process, and then hijacked a Mercedes SUV with a young Asian man inside. They stop at a gas station to get snacks, and they're going to head to New York. They still have him in the car.
Wait, real quick. These are details I literally haven't really revisited.
Okay.
The carjacking, they didn't kill him or shoot him or anything?
No. They took him hostage. They were taking him. He was with them. And he did the smart thing, which not a lot of people do. It's like, look, if he was smart enough to know that they're going to kill me eventually. You know what I mean? These guys are spilling their guts to this guy. They're telling him that we're the bombers. We're going to New York. We're going to set off more. And they're telling him all this anti-American stuff to try and, influence them. But they stop at a gas station. The white hat goes inside to get snacks for the trip. And, they're filling up on the hijacker's credit card, or the guy that hijacked his credit card. And he makes a run for it. He opens the door and runs. Like, black hat is in the car. I think he's may have been distracted on his phone or whatever. But, he just starts running and figures, look, I'm out in the open, less chance they'll probably kill me here than when they take me somewhere private. So he runs to another gas station down the street, where he goes inside and tells the clerk what's going on, and they call 911. Black Hat goes inside to get White Hat and be like, hey, he got away, we got to go. So he puts the snacks down and they take off. But they got GPS on this guy's car, so they know where he is. So they end up on like a dead end road in Watertown, Massachusetts. And this is, maybe we'll watch video on this because this shit is just crazy. But there ends up being a shootout between the officers and these guys. So they're shooting, they're throwing pipe bombs or other bombs at the cars and the cop cars, and it's fucking mayhem. Like I said, if you ever see Patriots Day, they make it look insane, but it was so much like that. And cell phone footage of that stuff came out. Like you said, cell phones aren't what they were today. This was at night. It was after midnight, so it's more like you can just hear the shots and the explosions. But
you can see silhouettes.
Yeah,
and it is from far away and it's low resolution, but you could hear it too. It was pretty dramatic footage. Yeah, Redna Asylum. They did, and I'm kind of like looking up things. Like that guy's name who got kidnapped is Dun Meng. Dun Meng, and he was a grad student.
Yep.
And he had a Mercedes-Benz and an iPhone, and that's how they were. I believe that.
Okay, that's what it was. Yeah, I remember there was a way they were able to track it somehow.
And he asked him if he could plug in his iPhone. I think they let him. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. So so he is public. He has done interviews. I think that's pretty cool. And also, I think we should shout out Bauman. Jeff Bauman. And he is doing good. He is also doing well and alive and out there. Wrote a book, so maybe we'll put that in the credits too.
Yeah, I've seen interviews with him where he's understandably he struggled at first. I mean, missing both his legs. I saw in one interview, he's like, I think it might have been on Conan, who's another Massachusetts guy, and he's like, Conan, you know what Boston's like. Every time I go to a bar, there's like 6 beers and 3 shots, but everyone's buying him a drink, and he ended up like an alcoholic. He was dealing with his depression that way. Everyone wants to buy this guy a drink because he seemed like a hero. And I remember he had to get sober from all this too, despite on top of losing both his legs above the knee, which is like even way worse than below the kney and everything. So and
he witnessed it happen. It wasn't like he was knocked out.
Right.
That's the crazy thing about it.
Didn't lose conscious. Awful.
Balls of steel, man. Props to Jeff Bauman. I mean, seriously.
There's a movie on him too. I've only seen it once or twice. I believe Jake Gyllenhaal plays him. I can't remember what it's called, but it was pretty good. So there's this whole shootout, bang out, and Black Hat gets shot something like 8 times, and he's still going. He won't go down. So one of the officers comes from behind, and this was crazy. This is something I saw recently. Is because there's a scene in the movie where these guys are shooting each other from like 5 feet away, and that's what happened. They said he got within 6 feet. They're shooting each other, missing. He ran out of bullets. His gun jammed or something. Black Hat runs out of bullets, so this guy's like, I'm gonna jump on top of him. He jumps on top of him. Another cop who's also out of bullets starts pistol whipping him in the head, just trying to, and he won't stop fighting. And that's when White Hat ended up being shot in the leg during all this. He gets in the SUV and drives off, and when he drives off, he literally runs over his own brother.
Yeah,
drags him a little bit, and so he ended up inadvertently getting the kill shot in on his own brother, which is a little bit of poetic justice, I guess.
It is.
Yeah. So he gets away. They find the car, like, I don't know, honestly, not that far away. So that's what leads us to one of the other crazier things in this is that they shut down Boston and Watertown for until like 6 p.m. the following. Like, no one was allowed to leave, go to work, on the streets, nothing. And they went door to door looking for this guy. Yeah,
I remember. Now I do remember this.
Remember that?
I do remember seeing this happen. real quick,
Yeah,
while we're on
absolutely.
it, the white hat, older brother. The other thing I remember seeing at the time, which wasn't as prevalent today, is I remember seeing his death photos. You can see the injuries. You can see where he rolled.
Yes.
You know, I remember seeing
Yeah.
that. Like,
Yeah.
wow, that's his body. You can see everything, and I do remember that too. So I just wanted to point that out. At the time, that was kind of when that started circulating. It was like, wow, really
Yeah.
crazy
It
stuff. But
was. Oh, another thing I forgot. I think I forgot to mention. Because it was one of those things where they kind of admit they didn't do everything by the books. Like this shutdown going door to door is,
yeah,
I mean, at least up here is unprecedented, where no one's allowed to leave, and your Fourth Amendment rights are pretty much out the window. They're coming in to look.
yeah.
But they also, when they figured out who they were, they had a lead, that white hat. I can't remember. He might have been at his college or near his college or something, and they thought he was inside from some kind of cell phone pinging or something. It ended up being wrong or whatever, but they were waiting for the warrant, and literally, I believe it was FBI director who's now become famous because of Trump. Oh my god, no, I can't think of his name. Shit, the tall guy, whoever he was at the time. He's like, just go in. It's on me. You got my word. Like they didn't wait for the warrant. They didn't want to miss out on him, so he's in. No one gave
Yeah.
him shit for it. Yeah.
I mean,
It's
sometimes you do have to have sort of an executive decision like that. I mean, it's not often. I mean, that you'll ever have to have
right.
that happen. You know, unless you're in one of those neighborhoods. How close
And
were you in proximity to all this?
so this is what's funny. I've moved around a little bit. Uh, I I live a lot closer to the starting line than I do the finish line. Back then, so there was times where I was very close to it. I was probably about 45 minutes away from the finish line, so
What about from?
not very close, but I'm very close to where it started.
Oh, it's
Um,
local for sure. What
oh
about
yeah,
where the shootout occurred and where they found? Well, we'll get to where
oh
they
in Watertown, yeah, yeah. That was the same town. Yeah, so I'm probably not much farther from there either. Yeah, probably about 50 minutes or so.
Wow,
Um,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's so without giving too much away, my father is from the Boston, the city area. My mother is from the suburbs. So I've lived in both.
Hmm.
I've lived in the city, I've lived in the sticks. So I was kind of in between it, like I'm back in the city again, but back then I was in more of a suburban area. Um I guess hence the landscaping. But yeah, it's still crazy because it's I don't know. I mean, 9/11 will still always be crazier to me, but this one seemed more localized, more
Oh man, when it's
yeah,
happening in your back door, or
yeah.
your backyard, so to speak, or your city, it's a whole different experience for
And
sure.
my wife brought this up to me today, something I had kind of forgotten about because I almost became borderline upset. I was watching everything on this for those 5 days. My
Hmm.
father died January 15th of the same year, 2 months to the day of the bombing. He died 2 months earlier. And my
Mm.
father was like super. He was proud American. He was proud to be from the Boston area. His father, my grandfather, was a Boston police detective. So I knew my father would have been like obsessed with this. And my wife thinks subconsciously I became a little obsessed because through my father or whatever. But yeah,
Oh,
it
very.
was
I believe that.
yeah. I mean, if my grandfather was still alive, he would have been, I'm sure, working on the case. Like also, he knew people that were working on the case, so it was yeah, it gets a little. You find little ways to make it gets personal for you because there's always like these connections.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that I still remember the night of that shootout. I'm watching stuff. The news. I'm checking online, and all of a sudden online the Watertown thing leaks out. So people start posting the cell phone footage. I remember being up pretty late that night for a work night, like watching all that stuff. And then the next day, there's the lockdown. Now, I didn't live in Boston or Watertown so I didn't have the lockdown didn't apply to me. But I'm at work and I'm checking to see if they're gonna find this guy. They're gonna find this guy, and they don't find him. And then they lift I think it was roughly like 6 p.m. They lifted the stay and shelter in place, And I want to say it was like 15, 30 minutes later, they get the 911 call. This older gentleman goes outside to smoke a cigarette now that the band is over, and he has a boat in his backyard with a white cover, or a boat in his driveway. And he saw, I believe, a rip in the cover and blood on the white cover.
Mm-hmm.
He literally goes out there, climbs the little ladder, looks inside, and sees someone in there. So he goes in, he calls 911, and he's like, yeah, there's someone in my boat. They're like, how do you know that? He's like, I looked right at him, and he explains what happened. He's like, I lifted it up, he was right there. So I remember the 911 guy's like, are you able to see the boat from safe there? He's like, yeah, I'm outside, I can see it. So like, get back inside. So they send units there, and so there was, and apparently everybody and their grandmother started showing up, because I'm guessing it was like it was like Watertown PD, Boston PD, FBI, SWAT, tons of cops.
Mm-hmm.
And what was weird is all of a sudden they fired like 250 bullets into that boat, and some of them went astray. They went in people's houses. Famously, locally, they showed a bullet in the wall of a little kid's bedroom that lived nearby.
Forgot about all that.
Yeah, they swear they heard a single shot, and then they started firing. It turns out he didn't have a gun. So I don't know I still don't know the truth of that. If one of them fired that single shot, if there was no single shot. But I remember early on, it was assumed that he had a weapon in there. I remember them even saying it looked like he was poking something out. They thought he was sticking a gun out. My guess is
a pen or something, because he wrote notes. He was writing things on the inside of the boat.
I forgot about that. That's right. Yeah. So my guess is he probably did stick something out of the boat. Someone pulled the trigger, and
man, they were just like, kill this dude, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I think he did get hit, but
he was So I believe he had a bullet in the leg from the night before, but one of those bullets went like through his mouth, like out the like one of those type of things, like out the. So they he was in rough shape when they got him out. But after that. Go on.
No, I was just going to ask. I don't know. Do you know how long he was in that boat? Was he in there for days, or was it just a couple hours?
No, well, it would have been days, but it could have been like, it was probably a long time. It was the next day after that shootout, but it was at night again. So he could have been in there a good 20 hours. Anywhere from 10 to 20 hours or something like that. I'm guessing he was in there for pretty much the night before, because they had everything locked down. So I'm guessing they would have found him if he was trying to roam. It wasn't, too far from the whole incident where the car was abandoned. I don't think so. It was the same town anyway.
Yeah, they knew he couldn't get too far.
Yeah, that's why they did the lockdown, because I think they thought they had hit him somewhere. I'm sure they found blood in the vehicle, and he abandoned the vehicle, so they figure he's on foot, fucking somewhere. Mm-hmm. So yeah, after they just Swiss cheese that boat, they finally get control of the they push the Watertown police. They pretty much push away everybody but like SWAT. Like, all right, I remember it might even be before that. I can't remember if it was before or after. They sent in a robot that was able to lift the tarp on the boat so they could get a look inside. Mm-hmm. And saw him. They had a helicopter overhead with the so they could see like the virtual the heat thing, so they could see him inside. So yeah, after they Swiss cheese the boat, they sent in an FBI negotiator. They talked him out. Famously, I remember there was a picture they took of him standing in the boat, and there's a red laser right in his forehead. Someone's got him right in the sights. Mm-hmm. And they take him down and cuff him. And I remember watching live. Obviously, that stuff wasn't shown live, but they had news crews nearby. And when all of a sudden word got out that they got him, and all the police vehicles started driving by, there were just rows of people just like cheering the police, like I've never seen. Yeah, I said I'm not a big cop guy, but I was a Boston PD guy that night. I'll tell you that. It gets a little more personal, I guess, when it's in your backyard.
Yeah, man. Especially, I mean, innocent people getting just blown apart or
Yep.
killed just for being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Like it really, I have an 8-year-old, and as I was doing
Oof.
research for this, and I realized I remember he was young, but he was 8, and it just
Yeah,
like
8
it
years
breaks
old.
my heart. But like we go to Christmas parade in our city and town, and we go to like today we took him to Easter egg hunt, and at the parades and stuff, there are a lot of police drones that are flying above, which
Yep. Yeah.
maybe 10, 15 years ago, I probably would have been, oh, this is some George Orwell 1984. I don't like a police state.
Right. Yeah.
I don't like Gestapo police tactics. I don't think the police should be the military. I think the military should be the military.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
But man, now you get older and you have kids, and you change a little bit. The younger
Yeah.
me would not like it, but to me now, it's like because idiots like this. I mean, you're so vulnerable in a place like that.
Yeah, I can't tell you. I can't describe. Like, I'm sure every city has something, but the marathon in Boston was like a big thing, and it
Oh
was a
yeah.
big, wholesome, family-like thing. Like I said, you got all Red Sox are always playing, and they're huge in Boston, and they play in the morning, and you don't
Yeah.
have to go to work, and you can flip back and forth between the marathon and the race, or people go to the bars and they're watching. They get the marathon on one TV, the Red Sox on the other.
Mhm.
Lines of people through several towns and cities, cheering them on, giving them water, all this stuff.
It's culture.
Yeah, and then
Part of the culture. I grew up in New Orleans, so for me, it was Mardi Gras and the Saints, New
yeah,
Orleans Saints. That is the culture. Those 2 times, and yeah, it's. I mean, the Boston Marathon's iconic, even before before this. I mean, it's iconic,
yeah,
for sure. And these guys just tarnished it for
that's
that
man.
couple of years anyway.
I remember talking about your Saints. I remember the first home game after Katrina with the block punt, taking it in
Yeah,
and everything. It's just crazy how shit like that happens. Like, even the Red Sox. So this is going to be insignificant, but the Red Sox. So, being the monster Red Sox fan I am,
yeah.
in 2011, we had an awesome team. We signed Carl Crawford. We traded for I forget his name, all-star first baseman. We were stacked. We were in first place heading into August, and then we just fell apart, and they ended up finishing like in third. And Terry Francona, who I love, got fired because of it. And all these stories came out about all these players quit on them. I remember Josh Beckett and John Lester and all the pitchers. They're just drinking, playing poker, and the fucking
Eating
all
fried
this.
chicken.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you remember that? Yeah,
Yes.
that whole shit, right? So this stacked, they're probably the best team on paper I've seen in my life, and they just they get too cocky and they just don't care. And then when they lose, they don't seem to care. So Francona, who's an iconic manager here, ended the curse, gets fired. They bring in Bobby Valentine, who was this New York Mets manager at one point, who was like a stickler. He's like a character. And they finish in last. They're just terrible in 2012. And they had assholes on the team. So, holy shit. 1 second. Douche, what are you doing here, buddy? Well, I haven't seen you in forever, buddy. Skull. So
I met Douche of the Dabbleverse in person.
Oh, in person? Nice.
Yeah. We took a picture too. It's funny. We're
awesome.
not too far apart. We're not too geographically far. So he came up to Memphis, and we hung out for the day. It was fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, when I first had the idea of a political show, he was one of the guys I was thinking of for my opposite, because we did a couple of things together as a group. There was like a round table, and him and I ended up, but we talk behind the scenes. It's the kind of relationship where give each other shit and then fucking laugh behind, because it's a debate.
Like us.
Yeah. So it's one of we had that kind of relationship. So I was like, oh, that'd be good. Could be some fireworks and then whatever. We're fine afterwards.
Exactly.
But yeah.
There's some good people. Let me just interject. There are some good people in the Dabbleverse, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got a rep for being a pretty hardcore place, and it is. But I've met really great people that I practically talk to every day. You being one of them. So
Yep.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. It's. I'm not. I get it now. Like I know I'm not a gamer, but I know I'm friends with people that game, and they end up close friends or friends with people that live halfway across the world. And I never got it, but I mean, one of my the pineapple is one of my best friends in the
yeah,
Devilverse. He's from the UK. You know, you never
I know.
know. I end up friends with people I have less in common with, and I don't know. It's maybe because you don't have to see each other every day, so you don't fight over it. But yeah, there's way more good people in this thing than assholes. It just sucks that the assholes are extraordinary assholes that
Big
want to
time.
fuck up your life for some fucking reason.
I know.
Oh,
I know, man. You gotta be
shit.
careful. You can't fly too
Yeah.
close to the sun.
Don't thank you, written asylum. Don't spread that too much. But all right. So yeah, just to wrap that up. So yeah,
they called him. Let's go back to it. They called
Yeah.
him in the boat.
Yeah.
Red
Picture
dot.
with
You
the
know
red
they wanted to
dot.
pull that
Yeah.
trigger too.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, they take him out. I know he goes to the hospital. I believe it was touch and go for a few days if he was going to make it or not.
Yeah.
I know I think they wanted him to make it because they wanted to know what they were dealing with. If there was this big, incel, or it's just end up being just two fucking brothers. But yeah, they didn't know what they had. I remember the shit. You know what? I don't remember what happened to her. I remember the wife of Black Hat was pretty complicit, and I don't know what happened to her. I should have looked that up before this because she never really gets mentioned around here. If I recall, like I don't think she was involved in anything, but I think she knew exactly what her husband was doing and was fine with it, type of thing. Yeah, shit.
I mean, you can look it up. We're live.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
We're learning. Yeah, there's so many things that have happened since then. And tragic things, and it, a lot of those details. Unless you go down a rabbit hole, I don't particularly want to relive it.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't even watch the movie. It's just upsetting, and that's just me. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of glancing at stuff on my phone, and it's all coming back, and there is a treasure trove of photos, and and characters like the guy who got carjacked by him. He's out and about. Jeff Bowman's out and about, wrote a book. So there's definitely an archive that you can really go down that rabbit hole.
It's one of those things where it's like I living through it. I feel like I knew it so well, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll watch one video just in case there's something I forgot. And like I said, there were a few things that I totally forgot about. Enough time goes by, you can't remember everything, I guess.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't look like I don't think anything.
Maybe Written Asylum can help us out.
Yeah, I don't think anything happened to her per se. There's an article called Prison Without Bars. So I don't think she's actually did any jail time, but because of what her husband did and her being complicit, that, she's kind of alienated, and which she should be. I'm sorry, but not sorry.
Wow.
But, yeah. Yeah. Bold statement. I know. Yeah.
I it's weird because I kind of feel like she's probably not complicit, and she just married a psycho,
Unless it's just the way I'm remembering it. It's something I should probably look a little more into because that's how she was portrayed. But who knows if that's just what the media or police were portraying her to be.
No, I'm sure that's probably what it was.
But
fucker.
Yeah, God, without getting in too much trouble, I'm anti most religions, but not obviously freedom of religion, but it's not for me. But in Islam, let's just say the wives don't have much power. I will give her that. They don't have much say over anything.
No.
So yeah.
I see it. I see it. I see it in Memphis. I see it at soccer games. I see it in the streets. They got a different kind of thing going. But I don't know, man. They seem to, they have families. They got a family unit and a family structure. I think it's probably a little bit different here and different.
Yeah,
now
we just see the extremists or the ones in the Islamic countries. I'm sure it's a lot stricter over there. No jail time. Remarried. Thank you, Written Asylum. Appreciate
Oh wow,
it.
that's interesting. I'll say
Yeah.
this: when it comes to kids, to me, it doesn't matter what color the kid. Children are
Yeah.
universal to me. Palestinian, Israel
Oh,
children,
yes.
white, black. Man, don't fuck with the kids. You know
No,
what I
no.
mean?
Yeah. That's it's so bad. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you can look. I mean, these people are now just because public figures that someone can look up and
Yeah.
find them and
Find
see
them.
what
Whatever.
they're up to and
Yeah.
remarried. I'm sure it was. I mean, she's here, so
Yeah.
she's in New Jersey, so maybe she wasn't too.
Yeah.
She
I
doesn't
recall
know, man.
she was an American girl. I'm pretty sure that he
Oh,
married
really?
here. Yeah. 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 I'm pretty sure she was, a local girl from Mass.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, if I recall correctly. I'm sure Written Asylum will let me know, but yeah, I don't think it was she immigrated with him or anything like that. Oh, just to finish, sorry, not that it matters. My Red Sox story, as I said,
Correct.
2011, the chicken, blah blah blah, fall apart. Francona gets fired. Bobby Valentine, they suck. So then in 2013, they're like, everyone's just pissed. Like, all right, we just want to get high character players. So instead of trying to get all these studs, they get all these great locker room guys who are good but not great. And that team won the World Series. That team had no business winning the World Series, but I remember they just all came together. Will Middlebrooks was our third baseman at the time, who was supposed to be really good, had a good rookie year and not much else. He's actually the one who coined Boston Strong. I believe he said it in a tweet or an interview, and it just kind of like took off.
Really?
Yeah, so he was a Red Sox player.
And now everyone rips it off.
Yeah, he just like he randomly said it, and like I can't remember if it was in an interview or tweet, but I remember it was him. It was Will Middlebrooks, who nobody outside of Boston would ever remember. He was a top prospect. Like I said, he had a great rookie year, second year, and then just sucked and disappeared. And here famously anyway, David Ortiz, they took the field like a few days after they caught the guy. And he's talking to the crowd, and he's like, "This is our fucking city. No one dictates our." And the crowd went fucking crazy, whatever. So the Red Sox have always been kind of linked to this too, but as they're linked to the marathon, as they're linked to Boston.
Yeah, I noticed in the footage that everyone knows Red Sox and Yankees have a deep rivalry, but they said that at the Yankee Stadium after the bombing, they sang the Red Sox song.
Oh yeah, Sweet Carol. Yeah, like I always love that shit, man. Like there's nothing. I've been to so many Red Sox Yankees games. It's fucking crazy. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, like it's I remember at 9/11 the Red Sox did we did pro New York shit. Yeah, they were great after the Boston Marathon bombing. We have a charity and a child cancer charity in Boston called the Jimmy Fund that is linked directly with the Red Sox, and they have a big fucking thing every year to raise money. And George Steinbrenner always gave a ton of money. So it was guy may have been an asshole, but he supported kids with cancer in Boston, so he was all right with me. So
me too.
Yeah, you it's just a game, but you put that shit even with I have issues with police, but I truly believe when they don't have time to think, like they don't have time for any biases or anything to get in the way. They're amazing. Like the way people reacted after the bombing was crazy. I always think there was during the summer of the George Floyd stuff. I remember there was another shooting like I want to say it was Dallas. So there's protests and someone starts shooting at the protest and the cops are being protested against. All of a sudden just start protecting the people being shot at, because it's instinct. Like people instinctively are good, but when they have time to,
Yeah, people are, man, but it just seems, I guess, it seems like more people are prone to pull out their phone and film it, which I can't.
Oh, that too, yeah.
I can't get past. I don't. You got that the opposite.
Yeah, that it seemed like that shit was happening on New York subways for a little bit, where I mean, that lady was like set on fire, and everyone's just
Oh
a
god,
little
I
while
know.
back. Yeah, I couldn't even watch it.
Yeah, it's
Ugh.
rough, man. It's rough. The stuff we were exposed to. She remarried another Jordanian Muslim.
Yeah,
That's
so yeah, she's American, but she loves she loves
we all
Muslims.
have our types, right?
Yeah. God damn.
What about without jumping too far ahead? What about the trial? What was this?
Oh,
What was it like there? With the because that was the perspective I had was the Memphis News with the West Memphis 3.
yeah.
What was it like? What was the sentiment? What were people just pissed and wanted vengeance or?
Yeah, I remember I think the big discussion early on was like, will they go for the death penalty? Because obviously we don't have that in Massachusetts, but federally, you can happen anywhere. And I know they went for it, but it was one of those ones where it was. I hate to say it, but it was. I think everyone knew he was guilty. There was almost like it would have been an incredible shock if he got off. So it was more like people were just waiting for the justice to happen, and will we give this guy the death penalty or not? Which they did, but it's appeal after appeal. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was always in the news, but I remember it being a lot less, less of a deal than the whole 5 days leading after it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a shocker. You're right.
Yeah, it's just because of like he's so guilty. It's not like, I mean, yeah, I know a lot of us, I'm not gonna say you, a lot of people think OJ's guilty. I do, but it's not like this was way more slam dunk shut than that fucking was. So it would
Yeah,
have been
totally.
crazy
Yeah,
if he
no
got off.
doubt. I wonder what he feels today.
Yeah, I
mean,
know.
because he's still alive. He's still, on
Yeah, it'd be
appeal,
interesting.
whatever. But I wonder if he's remorseful. I wonder if she's he. I mean, I wonder what is. I wonder if he's. What is he? Is he remorseful? Is he scared? Is he just? He probably like Chris Watts is like this devout Christian now. After he annihilated his family, I'm sure he probably just went deeper into Islam or religion.
If I recall, one of his friends said something to the effect like, after the bombing, if you told me one of my friends did it, he's like, I probably would have named 90% of my friends before I even got to this guy. So it seems like, as I said before, it was a shock to everyone that knew him that he would be involved in this shit. So
I know he seemed like a stoner college kid.
Yeah, he was a local small time the college kid you buy your little fucking weed from.
Yeah.
Like I said, everything I remember, he acclimated to America a lot better than his brother did.
But people can wear masks.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
I like Chris Watts. I want bringing him up. I mean, he had a mask. He had the father mask. He had the husband mask, and then he had the, Nicole Kessinger mask. And who he really was probably. But like Chris Watts, you have to be very another level of darkness to do what he did. This kid's the same way. I mean, what really gets me about him is the casually going like minutes after it happened to get milk, getting the wrong milk, bringing it back and getting the right milk and getting in the car and going home like nothing happened. Like that doesn't mean what everyone says. This is real. This happened, and that just shows you this dude ain't right.
No, I agree 100%. Like every time I think like, oh man, his brother pushed him into it, I'm like, you know what? I couldn't be pushed into that. I just couldn't. You know what I mean? He was. And then to just be so nonchalant in the hours and days afterwards, like it was no big deal. Like that, if he was really forced against his will, he should have been fucked up beyond belief. He should have been a wreck. But no one even knew it was him because he was acting normal. He was acting like he always does. So
yeah, and this is when Twitter was almost as big as it is now, not quite, but people were on Twitter, especially his age, college kids, and I think he infamously tweeted something like, "Be careful out there."
He tweeted that night something like, be careful out there, or Boston, something like that. Yeah, it was like he was part of the community, just trying to stay safe.
Man.
Yeah, even though he's the one that did it. I wonder. I still wonder. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure they showed him pictures of his brother. I'm sure of his body, and to let him know, like, look what you did. Well, yeah, if they had both had lived, I don't know. I wonder if they could have got more out of it. But in the end, it was two crazy brothers that wanted to be part of ISIS. It seemed like, and thankfully they were stopped before they got to New York and could keep going. Yeah, I kind of glazed over it quickly when I was telling the whole sequence of events, but they went through when they thought they had, White Hat was the first one they thought may have been involved. When they saw the pictures of him going the other way with the backpack there, and they were able to start going down each business on the roads, looking at whatever cameras they had. I believe one of the crucial ones, famously, there was about to be erased because they erased it 24 hours later. They recorded it, but they got it just in time, and they traced the steps in reverse, and that's how they were able to kind of find Black Hat, because all of a sudden they backwards and saw he was with his brother, who also had a backpack, and then Jeff Bauman also. When he came out, he kind of described Black Cat and thought he looked off, which I find crazy because I forget how long he was out for, but to go through that whole experience, then to be like, put under for a couple days, to come out and have your wits about you, where I think first thing he asked was about his girlfriend, who's now his wife, and then the second thing he's talking about Black Cat, like, I saw him, blah blah blah. It's crazy. I think I had a seizure once, and when I came out of it, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Like, my brain was scrambled.
Yeah, so but but earlier, like you remembered, like I remember earlier in this video, you have a vivid memory of what was going on. You said you
True, yeah.
You were cutting grass. Didn't you say you went to a store and came back and heard, like, you remember? I'm sure he does too.
I remember what neighborhood I was in. That's like crazy, like that I was landscaping. So that's crazy. Yeah.
So I'm sure, I'm sure he does too. But yeah, I mean, what? Yeah. So
that's nuts.
I mean, what? It's kind of cool that the iconic guy, victim of it, had his wits about him to trigger the guy that did it.
Yeah. Yeah, and even
pretty poetic, poetic justice.
If I recall, it wasn't even like he saw anything specific. It's just that guy looked off to him and he remembered it. That guy didn't look right. Like, he looked like everyone's having a good time, and there's this guy walking around looking angry and pissed. I don't know. There was something about him he thought was off, and he described him, and it was Black Hat. And I think they were partially onto him at the time, but that just kind of helped cement it too.
It did.
Yeah, as I said, if you watch little movies, they try and act like there was one moment where they figured out who it was. Everything I've seen, it wasn't. There were, it's a real life. It's okay. This guy saw a still frame picture. Bowman remembered something. This FBI agent saw some video, and they all come together and and they piece it together. It's not like one. Holy shit! I figured it out.
You're right.
So, yeah, it's a process that they have to put together. Yeah, it was a crazy year. I believe that year. I used to be a Sports Illustrated subscriber, and they always have Sportsman of the Year, and I forget how they work, but it was like the people of the Boston Marathon. I remember the cover. It was the police helping the victims. It had something to do with the marathon. How they maybe it was the marathon itself was the people of the marathon were the Sportsman of the Year. So it was a pretty cool honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I guess it's the more localized, obviously 9/11 infinitely worse with way more casualties. Um, and even though I'm sure people in New York saw it as an attack on New York, to me it was an attack on America. This one was almost like an attack on Boston to me for some reason. Even though it was really an attack on America, they just happened to live here in the area.
No, yeah. I mean, people are like we were saying a little while ago. When people just kick into helping people survive, and instinct, and people connect with people in their city. Like I mean, Memphis doesn't have the best reputation in the United States. You know what I mean? But it's my Memphis, you know what I mean? It's like
Right,
it's my
yeah.
shithole. It's it's our problem. So we kind of like unite. It's so there's definitely a part. I could totally understand that.
I'm sure it's probably well known, but people of Boston are pretty much proud to be from there. It's the tough certain parts too. There's some tough areas to grow up. Blue collar, like like not the same way as your area. I think your area is a little more rural tough, where this is a little more city tough. But yeah, so people take pride in kind of like surviving there, and there's a lot of community there too. It's kind of almost like the Dabbleverse, where you got some troublemakers, but there's a lot of good community there.
Well, the East Coast is not. I haven't traveled much on the East Coast. I've been to the East Coast, but most of my traveling has been West Coast, or between Memphis and West Coast. But I have been, but it's just older. It's more established. It's got more history. It's kind of where it all started. So
about Lynn Written Asylum? Not a nice place in Mass. I used to see memes that say like Lynn starter pack, and it'd be like Newport 100s, Suboxone. So it's a tough area to grow up.
Yeah.
Do you want to watch a clip? I figured once we got going, I'm like, if we watch anything, I'll save it to the end in case they hit me. I can just take it out.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So I was thinking maybe we'll just watch the first one and then the last one, just to see how it started and ended.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Or you know what? We all kind of know how it started. Maybe we
let's
should watch
how it ended. Yeah.
The
last two. That's a great idea. We'll watch the Lynn shootout. Yeah, Lynn. Now I got Lynn on the mind. Watertown shootout. And yeah, that's a great idea. And then how they caught him. Yeah, the first one, we don't need to see those casualties again. Okay. Oh, I should do my stuttering, John.
I should probably be a professional villain right here.
No, we're good. I'm almost there. There we go. I had the first one.
It's funny hearing your Boston accent come out. I'm hearing it more now than our last video.
So I think because I moved around, I have like an in between. Like, and some people do. There's a great scene in The Departed where they're talking to Leo, and he talked about the two neighborhoods he lived in, and it's like, oh yeah, you live in here during the week. He's like, then on the weekend you're dropping your eyes, and that's kind of what it's like. When I was younger, I lived in places where I had the accent, and then I moved kind of where my mother area was from, where it's not as prevalent, so I lost a lot of it, but it still comes out on certain words.
Right.
Yeah, I remember as a kid. Someone from I think they were from New Jersey, which is hilarious because they had a worse accent than me. But they kept making me say car, and they're like, it's car. And I'm like, and I didn't understand what accents were. And I'm like, who says car? It's car. Yeah. All right. Let's get this going. This is day 4. So this is gonna be I think we get to see the hijacking and all that, and then the shootout.
We need assistance immediately. With report of shots fired at officer, shots fired at Watertown police officers.
My pistol ran out of ammo. I had to reload. He was still shooting. I reloaded. It turned out I emptied my pistol at him.
There's explosions and gunfire going on down the street.
Agency advised plausible dynamite type explosives, and it's only at the officers that are responding.
I thought we were going to die. I mean, I truly thought that we were going to die.
The first explosion happened. About 10 or 15 seconds later, there was a second explosion.
Investigators hoping to close in on a suspect this morning. ABC's chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross leads our coverage from Boston. Good morning, Brian.
Well, good morning, George. There's a growing sense of confidence here this morning based on the FBI's discovery of a clip of video that appears to catch the moment when a man placed a bag with one of the bombs. But those video images had not yet been made public, and the FBI spent Thursday debating whether making them public would cause the terrorists to strike again.
We knew it with eyes wide open that if we release those photos, we're basically telling them, heads up, guys, we've got your photos. We're coming for you.
FBI technicians spotted the bomber in the white hat using a cell phone just before the explosions. If the two bombers could be quietly identified through cell phone tower records, maybe they...
Yeah, it's like, I don't know how he can do it. Like, there's the little 8-year-old boy and his sister, like right there, you know, and he just, it's,
could be captured before they struck again.
The element of surprise is a huge factor for law enforcement when making arrests.
Now we do have this exclusive development.
But then the FBI says its hand was forced when a Boston TV station obtained one of the photos.
Fox 25 has now obtained a photo of one of the suspects, and we're going to take a look at it right there. You can see it on your screen, the man with the white baseball cap.
Did you ask that news
Look,
organization?
they blurred out the victims. You saw that?
yeah. I like I said, I still remember this. There was, leading up to it, there was false report that they had someone in custody, and then one of the papers put the wrong guy on the cover. It was, not much has changed. That shit kind of still happens today too. We're struggling to be first. There's just all this bad information released, but yeah. Thankfully they blurred out the victims there. Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah, legacy media, unfortunately, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, absolutely.
I pay attention to, and I do have a kind of a journalism background as well. And you know, I get Elon Musk's, which is one of your favorite people, saying like this legacy media is dead. This is, you are the media. That's a problem.
right. That is a problem.
We gotta have some journalistic integrity, and you know. That's what happens. And with AI now, it's really easier and easier to put out false information and convince people it's real.
Like, I don't even fully disagree. I mean, the media, legacy media is terrible, but we need them to be better. You know, we
at least has ethics.
Exactly. Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, there is a code.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's gotten, we need it, you know. People used to make fun of the newspaper, but the newspaper had good reporters that were ethical and actually, you know, reported things before when they found out, and it wasn't a game of trying to get it out first.
No, so. Right. Like one of my, living in the area, one of my favorites is the when the Boston Globe went after the Catholic Church. I mean, they did that for months and months. You know, they had info, but they wanted to wait to get it right. You know, it wasn't to get it first. We got to get this right because we got one shot at this. Yeah. That's unfortunate. I miss the newspapers, man. I miss them. I used to read them. I used to read them every morning. But no more.
Yeah. Same.
And what did they say?
Yes. They said, we'll give you a little time.
So you had no choice but to go public.
Yeah, no choice.
The FBI agreed to give the TV station a 1-hour exclusive.
Good afternoon.
Before the head of the FBI Boston office, Rick DeLaurier, released the photos to the dismay of many of the field agents.
That went all the way down to Washington, D.C. That was FBI headquarters, Department of Justice.
Yeah, dude. It was just the 15th was the anniversary of the bombing, and today's actually the anniversary of this shootout because it happened after midnight and them capturing the last guy. So I was thinking about doing this earlier in the week, never got around to it. And opportunity arose to do this with Naz, so I couldn't wait. So if you can't do it on the 15th, the 19th is the day to do it. It was tonight, right? Yeah, tonight was the night that they took him down.
Justice Eric Holder.
To the Attorney General.
Yes.
Today, we are enlisting the public's help to identify the two suspects. The photos and videos are posted for the public and media to use, review, and publicize.
The photos went around the world in minutes, and agents manned the phones.
Oops.
handle the expected deluge of tips from the public.
We told everybody, strap in. This is going to be a long night. Hopefully we're going to get that call, that tip. And then we waited. But unfortunately, that one call that we were hoping to get, that didn't happen.
Not a single call that night from any of those who knew the Tsarnaevs, from school, from the neighborhood, from the gym. Radio silence until this.
Oh my goodness. All units, respond. Officer down. Officer down. All units.
We hear a radio call that there's an officer down. And it turns out it's Officer Sean Collier at MIT.
The two Tsarnaev brothers, seen in this MIT surveillance video, had approached Officer Collier's parked squad car.
They assassinated Officer Collier in hopes of getting his gun.
After failing to get his gun, they run away.
And then it got worse.
911 recorded line.
We started hearing about a call for carjacking.
The brothers carjacked this black Mercedes SUV, forcing its owner to ride along.
They stole money from him. They took out money from his ATM. They even stopped to get gas and get snacks for what presumably was going to be their drive after that.
Their plan was to head to New York and set off more bombs in Times Square. But the carjacked Mercedes owner escapes, dashing to another gas station across the street, cowering in fear that they will follow him.
911. Please help me, please. They have guns. Where are they? They're in the Shell gas station in Memorial Drive. They're in front of the gas station? Yes, I just wrong. I just got it wrong. They say that they are they did the explosion, marathon explosion. They are Muslims.
I mean, that guy's kind of like an unsung hero in all this, I think.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Without him, they're off to New York doing, blowing up in Times Square. So yeah, he doesn't. I remember his name's a little hard to. It's a Chinese name. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, if he didn't have the balls to, and it's always I try and, don't want to scare, as a father, you've probably been through this too. I don't want to scare my kids, but try and teach them little things to do with strangers or whatever. Yeah, I tell them to fucking run and make a lot of noise, because if they get you alone somewhere, that's it. That's it. So
yeah,
he was smart enough to know he had to make a run for it.
The older Tsarnaev runs into the store to tell his brother what has happened. We gotta go. Johar drops his packs of Red Bull and Doritos, and they race away.
They started pinging that car, and they were able to see where it was located.
We got a call from Cambridge PD. They just pinged the phone that was in the vehicle in question on the carjacking. It's in the area, 61 Dexter Ave, the 2013 Mercedes. Okay, now the vehicle is moving now, units. Okay, they're pinging the vehicle. It's 89 Dexter Ave. It's the vehicle that's being pinged.
Watertown police units moved in towards Dexter.
There may be guns in the vehicle.
You say this was the street.
Sergeant John McClellan closes in with another Watertown officer, Joey Reynolds, just ahead of him.
I come around the corner and the bad guy's out, arms fully stretched out.
Reported shots fired at officer, turns off the vehicle.
Shoot at the windshield of Officer Reynolds' cruiser.
Shots fired at Watertown police officers.
The bad guy switches from Joey to me and takes one shot and puts it right through the middle of my windshield from about 120 feet away.
We need assistance immediately. Shots fired again. Shots fired again. We have 3 units responding.
So I stood here.
Yeah, if anyone's interested, there's a lot of cell phone footage of that shootout, people looking out their windows or whatever on YouTube. Unfortunately, it was 12 years ago, so the phones, they're not terrible, but they're not nearly as good as they were now, and it's at night. But if anyone's interested, just to see how much gunfire there was, it was pretty crazy for real life shootout on a dead end street.
There, I said, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I jumped up, threw it in drive, and I just jumped down right here, and I was following it. I was the
car's moving.
Car's moving, and I'm following it like this and just shooting right in between here, using the door as cover. So I probably took 12, 15 steps with the vehicle and saw the tree. I shut the door. I ran to the tree, and they think someone's in it the whole time. So you can see them shooting at it. You can see them throwing the bombs at it. And I'm like, Jesus, this is working. I'm like, I can't believe it.
We can report from the school supervisor that the suspect has unplausible dynamite explosives with them, and it's only at the officers that are responding.
Now a third Watertown officer, Sergeant Jeff Puglisi, responds.
And I fired 3 or 4 shots. I was positive I was hitting him, but he wasn't going down.
In more than 3 decades on the force, neither man had ever fired his weapon in action until this night.
Who did you hit? Tamerlan.
Did he keep shooting?
He came charging up the street, shooting at me. So we're about 6 feet apart. We ran up that driveway.
You're shooting each other?
Yes.
6, 7 feet apart?
Yeah. I emptied my pistol at him, and in the meantime, his pistol ran out of ammunition. I didn't know if it jammed at the time or what. And he kind of looked at his gun, looked at me, got frustrated, threw the gun, hit me in my left bicep. He turned, he ran down back onto the street, took a left, I chased after him, and I probably left about 4 or 5 feet in the air and came down on the shoulders and tackled him.
We had 8 bullets in him, and he was still fighting us. The only I had was my empty gun, and I pistol whipped him. I was trying to knock him out. I hit him as hard as I could, 10, 12 times. Couldn't knock him out.
The younger Tsarnaev, now back in the Mercedes, runs over his brother, just missing Pugliese.
And I'm laying there, and I saw the front wheels go over Tamerlan. I saw him bounce up and underneath the undercarriage a couple of times. I saw him get hung up in the rear wheels and get dragged 20, 25 feet.
All officers responding. We have one body pinned down, and we have another one on the run, shots fired.
And all we saw was taillights at that point.
Police fired as he fled. They missed him, but a ricochet wounded a transit police officer who had responded to the scene.
Once other agencies started showing up, they said to us, "Do you know who you have here?" And we said, "A couple of guys that carjacked a car."
And he goes, no. Do you know who you got? These are the Boston Marathon bombers. And I'm like, what? I'm like, how do you know that? He's
wow,
like, we've been chasing them all night.
Yeah, that was. I didn't remember that part till I watched this. I thought they knew what they were dealing with, or at least knew that the guy shot a police officer or something. But no.
Yeah.
These are them. These are the guys. I'm like,
So is this black hat or is this white hat? Who's the dead guy? I mean, is this bigger than these 2 people? Is this a cell? What do we have here?
Yeah, that was crazy stuff. So I remember that night. As I said, I kept watching, checking on the internet or whatever, and then that started breaking, and very early in the morning, people started even releasing the cell phone footage. It's, if anyone, like I said, if you want to watch it, it's some of the craziest shit. It looks like something out of a movie. Because in real life, there's usually not that many shots going in and shit like that. Yeah, douche. I kind of mentioned earlier. You know me, man. I'm not a police guy. I know some of the shit. I'm sure they're not telling us. They claim that White Hat shot first, or they heard a shot, or had a gun. He turns out he didn't have a gun, so I don't know why they ended up firing all those bullets into him, into the boat. But I'm sure there's also some other shit that we don't know either. But it was interesting.
Yeah.
I gave the police more leeway than I usually do.
Yeah, it depends on what douche of the Devilverse means, because
Right.
I know a lot of people believe in psyops, where I don't know. I think information was a little bit harder to cover. I don't know, maybe not. I don't know. I think it's
What's funny
pretty
is
straightforward.
they admitted to, I think I told you, they admitted to going in without a warrant, without waiting for the warrant. And what's funny is in the movie, which I have no idea if this is true or not, because I haven't been able to find it anywhere. In the movie, there's a scene where kind of like these unknown government agents come in, interrogate the wife, and then leave, and they get nothing out of her. And it's like they never say. It's almost like they're implying we have like a secret, which we might, like some secret agency. And in the scene, they have a woman interviewing her. She puts the whole Muslim thing on, just trying to, out of respect, see if the wife will talk to her. And the wife's just like, I want my lawyer. And she, they're like, I got rights. And they go, you don't got shit, honey. Like acting like is there some agency where your rights just get thrown out? And I don't know if they had evidence of that or they were just implying it. But yeah, I always found that interesting. Because
I think there probably is, and they probably have presidential, I don't know, what would you call it? Barack Obama was the president at the time, which is amazing to see his speeches, because he looks so much younger than he does now. They say being president will put a lot of years on you.
I know I'm not a Trump guy, but I can't picture that, like, dealing with like national tragedies, whether I like the president or not. Like, as a little kid, I remember the Challenger and Reagan talking, Obama talking there and stuff, George H.W. Bush. It's like, even though I hated these guys, I felt like they had some empathy in there somewhere. It's like, I don't know if Trump like feels that shit. I don't know. Biden would have sucked too, because he doesn't know where the fuck he was, so he wouldn't even know what he was talking about. But yeah, it's been a while since I'm no president guy, but Obama guy, but the guy could talk. Talk his way out of things.
Yeah, and it's like we've been, like 3 terms since then. It's just wild. It seems, what, 12 years? You said 12 years. So it does, but there's been, so many terms. It seems like it was longer.
It does,
but it's really not.
And without getting political on this one, it was oh God, what was I just gonna say? Shit, never mind. God damn it.
Well, anyway, I think certain when it comes to terror, I guess you'd say,
I remember.
I think some of these guys might have clearance to bend fudge the rules and have a presidential pardon.
Executive authority, all that.
There you go. That's what I was looking for.
Thank you, written asylum. Yeah, all I was gonna say is like we're so divided as a country now. I don't even know if we would we used to always come together on these things, like on natural disasters or bombings or whatever. I don't know. It's been a while. So
man, I think the real problem is social media.
It's a huge part of the
people
problem.
are divided.
I
think people would be divided philosophically speaking. But I mean, the internet, everyone has an opinion and everyone has a voice, and it's just all out there in your face 24/7, and people are just up at each other's throats, man. Before you didn't know, you didn't know what people were thinking or feeling, and it was easier. But that's my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. Absolutely.
We're asking people to shelter in place. In other words, to stay indoors with their doors locked and not to open the door for anyone other than a properly identified law enforcement officer. And that applies here in Watertown, where we are right now. And at this point, all of Boston.
Everybody off this street right now, let's go!
We have to treat this like it's a snow day without any snow. All of the area became really a ghost town.
Hey, we were going to house after house, clearing them. People were afraid in Watertown. They would see a back door open that they didn't think was open before. We'd go into that house and clear it. People were hearing footsteps in their homes. People were running scared.
Scared because of the shootout overnight. Left one bomber dead, another on the run.
We believe this to be a terrorist. We believe this to be a man who's come here to kill people. We need to get him in custody.
The first explosion happened, but 10 or 15 seconds later, there was a second explosion.
We spent about 10, 15 minutes trying to resuscitate this patient. At 1:35 in the morning, he was pronounced.
Who's the dead guy? We're going to roll a prints of the dead guy. I said, find Jeff.
I got an email saying, get the quick capture system ready and meet everybody at the hospital. Actually brought it up to his hand and put his hand on there. And there was an instantaneous hit.
And what came back?
The identification of Tamerlan Tsarnaev.
That's the first time we, standing in the middle of that crime scene, know who they are. And we know the dead guy is, and the fugitive is his brother.
He is dressed in a gray hoodie-type sweatshirt. He's a light-skinned or Caucasian male with longer brown curly hair. You've seen the picture. You all have it. That's the individual that we're looking for at this moment.
And then police got reports from Boston's South Station of a possible pipe bomb and 2 more suspected terrorists.
The decision was made to put the city in lockdown till we figure out what happened.
Yeah, so that's the type of shit. I don't remember that at all. Suspected terrorists, 2 different terrorists and pipe bombs or whatever. I have no memory of that. So it's crazy. Like there's certain details I remember of some shit, and then other shit. Like I guess that was part of the reason they used him for the lockdown, and I don't remember that at all. So,
Who just said that? What was his official capacity?
He's now. Let me see. I know he's now the.
Was he local?
Yeah, he was local.
Okay.
Yep.
Because and this might get political, but one thing that's when President Obama spoke about it for the first time, he was urging people not to draw any conclusions, which we know what that means.
Right, yeah.
And this guy's just like,
yeah.
you know, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, he's
and that's the difference between local and national.
Yeah, no, he's local.
That we're looking for at this moment.
And then police got reports from Boston's South Station of a possible pipe bomb and 2 more suspected terrorists.
The decision was made to put the city in lockdown until we figure out what happened.
As the day unfolded, we realized that these 2 individuals had nothing to do with this, that the pipe bomb was not a pipe bomb, and that kind of was foreboding for the rest of the day.
Makes me wonder, did they not even so say make it up, but use this false pipe bomb thing as an excuse to we gotta lock this shit down to get people to go along with it? Because that's something I can say was very interesting. Like, people don't like their rights infringed upon up here, but there was not as much pushback as you would have thought. You know, people seemed pretty okay with it. You know, allowing the police to come in their homes and look around or whatever, and not being able to leave. So when you as George W. Bush taught us, if you scare people enough, you know, they'll let you get away with a little bit more. So I always found that.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, and that's probably. It does. You know, pipe bombs or no pipe bombs, it doesn't change what they did. Or
no,
you know.
Right. And I don't want to get too conspiracy, like, because I can't imagine the pressure these guys have if this kid gets away and then, you know, does it again somewhere else.
Away after that shootout.
That's I know. It's. I mean, I think that's how they knew he's got to be around here somewhere. There's no way he got very far, you know. But so they locked it down and went door to door.
One dead end after.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, if it was during the day, he was probably fucked. You know, they would have seen blood trails, you know, easier and all that shit. So yeah.
At one point, the FBI thought it had tracked the younger brother's phone to a location near his college in Massachusetts.
I was on the phone with FBI headquarters, and Dr. Muller was on the line.
Yeah, that's right, Mull. I couldn't think of his name. Yeah. So this is the part I think where they just throw the warrant out the door.
Fine. And I said, you know, we don't have the search warrant ready. And I remember him saying to me, he says, well, if you're ready, you go on my word. And I'm like, okay, roger that, sir. I'm not sure that's ever happened before.
The director of the FBI authorizing a raid without a legal warrant.
That was quite historic, I felt, too. And the right thing to do. When that came up,
I think when you use the word terrorism or terrorist, you get away with certain things.
Yeah.
It escalates it to a certain level where they might get away with this.
Yeah, it's touchy for me. I'm not even saying I disagree. I don't like setting a precedent, because then people get to decide. You know, I might not always agree when they think it's terrorism or worth it,
but things can't always be black and white.
Right,
You know?
I get right.
And I don't mean that from a race.
No,
I mean, I'm like you. I mean, you know, like the not to bring in the Dabbleverse or whatever, but I mentioned Aaron earlier, but like I don't believe, like, with the Nick Rekieta case situation, I'm not cool with them beating down his door. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
You know, I think that's you know, that's too much. You know,
to me, that's only when
I don't like anyone's doors getting beaten down who for drugs. You know,
I agree. Yeah, to me, that's only if you think they're about to kill somebody in there or something. You know, there's a hostage. It could be something. I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, they're traumatizing kids.
Yep.
Over what? A couple of grams of coke.
Yeah, over something we declared as an illness, you know, these days, but they don't always treat it like it's an illness. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I'm with you. I mean, I know we lean differently on certain things. There's certain things though that I'm a libertarian at heart.
Yeah, right.
That we agree on, and yeah, I'm with you on certain things.
Yeah, I think when it comes to rights and things like that, we agree way more than we disagree. It's just some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Oops. Oh my God, moment.
So 6 hours of search and nothing, and about 6 more hours until it begins to get dark again, which gives advantage to suspect number 2.
I lost a lot of people who just kind of really passed out. Some people in the hospital
from exhaustion.
Absolutely, they were hospitalized from exhaustion. I was a mess. I was done.
As the day was about to end, there was no sign of the fugitive terrorist anywhere in the cordoned-off area. The entire city of Boston still on lockdown.
It became a point of, can we sustain this shelter-in-place order for this major metropolitan area?
In light of the status of the investigation here in Watertown and the developments in the course of the day, the stay indoors request is lifted.
The order to stay indoors has been lifted for the residents there, but they are told to be watchful because the search continues for a dangerous suspect. A long day becoming a long night.
At 6, when the governor lifted the ban, honestly, we didn't know he lifted the ban. All of a sudden, people started coming out of their homes, and we're like, hey, what are you doing?
Evans and his officers were about to head home until this.
911, smash reporter. What's the address of your emergency? 67 Franklin, Watertown.
The home of 66-year-old David Henneberg.
I have a boat in my yard. There's blood all over the inside. There's a person in the boat. Are you sure? I just looked in the boat.
468, Sunny Bay. Sir, I have a call from 67 Franklin Street, 67 Franklin. There's a boat in the backyard. There's blood all over the cover, and the RP reports there's a person inside the boat.
How far away from the original search and lockdown? Was it right in the middle of all that, or was this on the outskirts? Did he make it further than they thought?
I'm pretty sure it was in the grid. That's a good question. I'm not sure like how far in the grid it was, but yeah, it's a good. Like I don't know if they just didn't check the boat. That's a good question. I'm gonna look into that.
You can't
while we're
check
watching.
every square inch, you know?
Right, yeah. But yeah, it was. I remember being shocked. I took that whole week off the landscape, so that was the last day I took off the landscape. So I remember working and checking my phone every so often to see if they caught the fucking guy. And I got home and nothing. You know, I got home around dinner time, and then shortly after that, I'm showering this, and that's when all this shit started coming out, and it ended up being on the news. But they were, they couldn't get close enough to see all the shit we're gonna see. But they got to see as the cops drove by. But yeah, they were right there. So I was like pinned to the TV, like watching to see how this was how this was all gonna end.
Wow.
Yeah. Can you look at the boat without making yourself noticeable? I can look at it right now. Okay. I'm outside. Go back inside. I can hear the look. Don't put yourself in harm's way. Stay away from the boat. I'm not going near the boat. I'm absolutely not going near the boat.
And we were literally the first ones on that boat. And then I went on the air and said, we're already here.
I'm in the rear of the yard.
Oh, okay, they're already there.
Yeah, and Bill Evans, he's like top cop in Boston too, so it was crazy that he was one of the first ones there. But yeah, this is where I think they cover. All of a sudden, everyone and their mother starts showing up, and it gets a little hectic because you got a couple itchy trigger fingers on some of these guys. I think.
My worry was it looked like he was poking with a gun.
Water tank control. There's someone inside. What's the call going to be? Wait for SWAT. Wait for SWAT. They're en route there. We're going to put a rush on it.
And then everybody was descending on 67 Franklin Street.
On their own, hundreds of agents and police responded to the scene, guns drawn.
And that's when the shot rang out. And I'm like, oh my God.
Shots fired. We have that.
More than 250 shots into the boat itself, and dozens more into surrounding homes. This one missed a child's bed.
Yeah, I remember that child. I remember that making the rounds on the news.
Man, that's another. That's another thing I don't like about it.
Yeah. I just looked it up. So that boat, it was several blocks from the shootout the night before, but it was less than a mile. So it was less than a mile away from where they last saw him.
I'm surprised they couldn't pick up a scent with a dog, man.
Right, and considering he drove somewhat of it too, so he was even closer than that. Wherever he dumped the car, it was less than a mile from the shootout there with his brother. So I'm sure it had to be well in that grid. Somehow they, like I said, they can't check everything, I guess.
Other rounds smashed into walls, vases, furniture in the homes of neighbors.
Hold fire.
I knew we had to stop that firing right away. And right away, I'm yelling on my radio, and I'm yelling to my guys, and they yell,
Hold fire.
Hold your fire. Hold your fire.
Hold fire. Hold fire.
They're lucky. They're lucky. One of the residents didn't get shot.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Like, and watching the read back, this is even before, as we'll see, they go in with the robot and lift it up. Like, they're not even 100% sure it's him at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
know.
It's like, yeah, they're pretty sure, but not sure enough to empty 250 bullets into the boat. you
Yeah,
know?
and not from one gun either.
Right.
I mean, they were
Yeah.
all firing. It was,
Yep.
that was pretty
Yeah,
reckless, but you know.
With that many, I do wonder if one of them did just fire off and then the rest were just, thought they were being shot at and went nuts. I don't know. But it's interesting.
Number one, I didn't want him killed because we didn't know how big a cell and what information we had to gather. And number two, I knew I had policemen all around that boat.
All Watertown officers, stay away, pull back from the house immediately. That's all Watertown officers, pull back away from the house immediately.
Only later did police learn that the man in the boat did not have a gun.
Who fired that first shot? We still don't know. I can honestly say none of the Boston guys ever fired. I had good control over my guys at the scene.
Evans and his officers surrounded the boat as a robot was set in to rip the canvas tarp off the top.
If they're able to successfully rip that off, they'll be fully exposed, okay?
We threw flashbangs into the boat, smoke grenades, and then eventually they negotiated.
We have movement in the boat. He just sat up. He's moving, flailing about, quite a bit of movement.
They were able to talk him, to get him to sit up on the boat.
Suspect in custody.
And then he was taken into custody, and 100% that's our guy.
The younger Tsarnaev was badly injured, but survived. As medics treated him, he asked what happened to his brother. They told him, "You will find out soon enough."
It was the best feeling I've ever had to be out there and to actually see people clapping for police was, something that I've never seen.
102 hours later, from the moment those explosions happened to his capture, it was the longest 102-hour day of our lives, I think.
Whether it was from the bombings to the first responders, the EMS, citizens, to just examples throughout those 5 days of the heroic efforts of everyone involved.
So I was proud to be a member of this department. I was proud to be an American. I was proud that we got the two people responsible for this bomb.
Sentenced to death, but 12 years later, he's still alive and kicking. It's a shame.
Yep. And as I said, there was another officer that died like less than a year later. Close, but he doesn't really. Hey, Vagina Wrinkle, how we doing? Glad you can make it. Yeah,
not to be confused with Penis Wrinkle.
Right. that's his wife. That's the missus. But yeah, I'll say so. I remember. So when they showed all those cop cars like driving away, that's where the news reporters were set up when I was watching. So they were trying to relay information, whatever they were getting. I think they told us when they heard the shots. I don't remember if we could hear them or not, but I remember them driving off, that they got them, and everyone going crazy, and everyone just hitting the streets. And I was living in the suburbs at the time, so I didn't. But people in the city, like, they just hit the streets like the Red Sox just were going to the World Series or something. So it was our 9/11, I guess, or whatever, or our London bombing, or seems like too many cities have their own thing. Our Katrina, it's
without a doubt. I mean, you got it's much more surreal when it's happening, in your neck of the woods. It just is different,
if I lived closer, I'm sure, like if I lived where I used to live, it probably would have been even weirder because there would have been a shot that he made it to my, neighborhood where I lived. I felt okay, but yeah, or if he had done it closer to the starting line, but yeah, it doesn't even feel like 12 years ago. It's crazy. Like I'm getting too old, man. Time's fucking flying by.
I've been seeing a lot of people say that, a lot of YouTube videos on it that saying time is going faster. There's this whole rabbit hole, if you want to go down it, that it says the world really stopped in 1999 to 2000, and everything since then has just been like, I don't know. I haven't delved too deep into it, but check it out, and you'll start to see a lot of videos popping up about that turn of the century and how things went awry.
Interesting.
Like on a different level. So I see he's in Colorado prison. Doesn't look like they have a date for his execution or what's going on with that. But
yeah, I haven't heard anything in a while. I remember during the trial they would talk about stuff. Certain time when an appeal would come up, you might see him. But I can't say I watch a lot of local news anymore either. But I haven't heard anything in a long time on him. The day snuck up on me. Actually, this coming Monday is going to be, because Patriots Day. It's kind of like Thanksgiving. It's a different day every year, so it's going to be on the 21st this year. So this Monday is the marathon. So they'll be talking about it all over again. I remember the first few years after it happened, there'd be, family members of the victims running. People that lost limbs, would run with their fake, leg or whatever. So there's always some inspirational stuff. Gets a little less and less as the years go on, but the first few years after the bombing, it was very prevalent.
Yeah, that would make sense. And yeah, at some point you do have to kind of move on. It can't be that, even 9/11 every year, it seems like it's you almost forget about it sometimes. I mean, how many times can you watch the same footage over and over again?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I feel so old. My youngest, he's learning about 9/11 in history class, and I'm like, oh God, like learning about 9/11 in school. It's like, I remember that shit, man. It was in my 20s.
Yeah.
All right, we're about to hit the 2-hour mark. I think we can wrap it up here.
Yeah.
Want to thank you for joining me, man. Returning the favor. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great.
Great to see. For those of you who don't, I'm sure most of you know, but if you don't, we got Naz's all his info in the description. Check out his YouTube page. Check him out on X. Check out his music. That was his song we opened with. If you want to rewind and check it out. It was good to see you, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, please subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000, so that would be nice.
Yeah, he does high quality. He does high quality stuff, man. The editing's fantastic. He does a little bit of everything, so you'll find something you'll like. Just check him out.
Yeah, I'm mostly an editor, but let me just go off and promote that real quick. Like when I first started YouTube a couple of years ago, my main reason for doing it was to visit places where things like this happen. Like in Memphis, where I'm at, and I started with Lorenzen Wright, which was a Grizzlies player who was killed not far from where I lived, and a couple other places in Memphis. Young Dolph, I went to the Makeda's Cookies where he got gunned down. But I'm working on one now. West Memphis 3. I went to the Pipe Bridge. So that's kind of what I like to do, is going on location and doing some edits. Thank you, Written Asylum. But I'm working on one now. I've been literally working on for like months. This is where I'm visiting 3 locations all across the street from each other. One of them, I was working for a newspaper at the time, so I have, I actually have, I followed. I was there when this happened with a press pass. So I talk a little bit about that. So I'm doing these things where I'm going to each location. One of them was on First 48 when Memphis was featured on A&E. and there's another one, and they're all across the street. So I'm doing this where I'm driving to each location. That I'm gonna probably drop that next week. I can't wait to do it. I've been working on it for so long. But yeah, please subscribe. Come check out my stuff, true crime stuff, interviews.
Yeah, Douche. He's got multiple videos on the West Memphis 3. I'm actually in one of them. He's got other ones. He interviewed PI and everything.
Ed Opperman.
Ed Opperman. Yeah.
And then I had you with on. Yeah, check those out. Those are doing pretty good too.
It's great discussion, man. And he's like, for those of you that watch my shit, it's low technical quality. We just have discussions and go with it. He has the same great discussions, just a lot nicer. Great editing, all that shit. Check it out. He's got music. He's got true crime. You know, he's got some Dabbleverse stuff. He's got a ton of interviews.
A lot of Dabbleverse
inspirational stuff. Everything. So please check it out.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And
all right.
Douche,
Thanks, Nick.
I'm gonna hit you up, Douche. I want to get you on sometime, man. Redna Asylum, always here. I appreciate you. Vagina Wrinkle, thank you so much. Naz, I'll talk to you later. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Let me introduce myself for the first time. It's Mumbling Nick, the guy you're supposed to have on your political show.
Truth he brings. Nick mumbling, screaming truth in the void. Army major, cocaine, Carol may deploy. Stuttering John, just a puppet on a string. Nick fights in the Dabbleverse, truth he brings. Blue collar fist, strike against the power. PMS podcast, hour after hour. Noise of the streets, giving birth to a roar. Nick's got the voice that shakes power to the core. Mumbling Nick, rise up and yell against the lies where heroes dwell. Truth very deep, now set it free. Nick's the voice for you and me. Army major marching on with steel cold pride. Nick spills truth, won't let it hide. Cocaine Karen flashing cash in the sea. Stuttering John, a shadow can't compete. Voices clash in the void of screams. Nick's got the backbone to break their schemes. On the podcast, airwaves rough and raw. Nick stands tall, defying law. Mumbling Nick, rise up and yell against the lies where heroes dwell. Truth very deep, now set it free. Nick's the voice for you and me. Mumbling Nick, rise up and yell against the lies where heroes dwell. Truth very deep, now set it free. Nick